Lonesome Road is considered by many to be New Vegas' most challenging DLC. The enemies encountered have survived in one of the most treacherous areas in any Fallout game and wield high-powered weaponry. But the question isn't how hard it is. The question is, can you beat Fallout New Vegas' Lonesome Road DLC without taking any damage? Just like with the previous 3 DLCs, I'm going into Lonesome Road with a character that's as generic as possible. My tag skills are irrelevant. I chose Skilled and Trigger Discipline as my traits. Skilled gives a +5 to all skills at the cost of a 10% reduction in experience earned, and Trigger Discipline increases accuracy by 20% while lowering fire rate by 20%. The game recommends that you go into Lonesome Road with a character that's at least level 25, and that's what I did. I used console commands to level myself up to level 25, and as I leveled up, I evenly distributed my skill points across all skills. By the time I got to level 25, most of my skills were at 52, with the rest being at 51. Regarding perks, I chose Animal Friend, which turned out to be a complete waste. Bloody Mess for a 5% damage boost, Confirmed Bachelor for a 10% damage boost to male enemies, Educated to give me 2 extra skill points every time I level up, I took this pretty early on, Entomologist to do 50% more damage when attacking mutated insects, Finesse to land more critical hits, Lady Killer to do 10% more damage to females, Rapid Reload to reload 25% faster, Scrounger to find more ammo in containers, Strong Back to carry 50 more pounds of equipment, Swift Learner to gain 10% more experience whenever experience is earned, and Weapon Handling to reduce strength requirements for all weapons by 2. I'm going into Lonesome Road with only the equipment I have access to at the start of the game, which is all from the various DLC packs available for Fallout New Vegas. With the exception of the grenade rifle, none of it is all that promising. Armor is irrelevant, as are healing items. Just before leaving Doc Mitchell's house, I used console commands to set my max health to 1 so that any damage of any kind kills me, and reloads my most recent save, forcing me to get through any situation without taking damage. I then left Doc Mitchell's house, made the reunion my active quest to have a waypoint, and made my way to the Canyon Wreckage. I stood there for a moment, thinking about what kind of nightmarish shitstorm I was about to walk into. I passed through the wreckage and took my first look at the divide. I found the Hopeville Silo Bunker Entrance, tried to open the blast doors, failed, looted a few ammo crates, found an Arc Welder, and activated Eddie, who has an assortment of memories inside of him which sometimes inhibit his ability to be useful. I used him to activate an Automated Commissary that unfortunately didn't have any useful weapons, but it did have a fuck ton of ammo available, so I sold my armor and healing items to buy some ammo that I thought I might find useful sometime down the road, as well as whatever I could use now. After Eddie activated the blast doors, I restored the power. I saw a few of Eddie's brothers, wandered around the missile for a bit, and got into combat for the first time. You know you're in for a bad time when the first enemy you find is a sentry bot. I used quite a few rifle grenades on it, then let Eddie do most of the work for me. A few marked men and a dead sentry bot were just up ahead. Something pinned a marked man to a wall by pushing a steel rod through both the marked man and the steel wall it was pinned to. Another bad sign. I managed to take out another sentry bot all by myself. I passed through some sort of an office and opened the silo bunker's doors. That was a mistake, because 4 or 5 sentry bots came online and dispatched of EDE in seconds. I may or may not have had a hand in that by blasting him with a grenade or 2. Either way, Eddie is down for the count, and I found myself trapped in a corner with multiple sentry bots between me and the rest of the divide. I can guarantee that if it weren't for the grenade rifle, there's no way I would have been able to get past them. I was able to pop out from behind cover, shoot a grenade, and retreat before any of them could hit me. There were still 2 turrets left, and I had already gone through almost half of my grenades. But the sentry bots had been returned to their endless slumber. I used the same tactic in my companion-only video by backtracking through the silo and exiting through the entrance to revive Eddie. The turrets were less of a threat than I thought they'd be. I looted all the mechanical corpses, went outside to Hopeville, and had a conversation with Ulysses for the first time. He provided me with some backstory about myself, spoke dramatically about things that have transpired and events that still have yet to take place, and explained that the divide may prove to be the end of the line for me. The small upside about Lonesome Road is that it's fairly linear. Your objective is pretty much to just pass through the divide by whatever means necessary until you reach Ulysses. The second part of that linear path takes us through Hopeville, where there are quite a few marked men. They have high-powered weaponry and are pretty accurate. Not that the weapons they carry actually matter at all. It doesn't matter if it's an anti-material rifle or a Nerf gun, the bullets kill me instantly. The first few marked men I took on were tough. Eddie provided a distraction, but I had no long-ranged weapons at my disposal, making attacking from the distance a bit of a problem. I died numerous times on this marked man hunter alone because I was determined to kill him with a throwing spear. Persistence paid off. He died. Another marked man took multiple point-blank shotgun shells, but my ignorance paid off when I looted the hunter and got my hands on a trail carbine, which I just so happened to have bought some ammo for back at the commissary. The trail carbine allowed me to do significant damage from a distance, thanks to the finesse perk and sneak attack bonuses. Before finding the laser designator, I explored a bit to try and get my hands on more weapons. Believe it or not, using a grenade rifle indoors is not the best idea when you can take no damage. Luckily, the marked men who emerged from the barracks were mostly carrying melee weapons, allowing me to take them out with relative ease. There was another commissary inside where I sold the armor I picked up, useless healing items, and a few weapons to let me stock up on more ammo. I then arrived at a small town where I ran into another small issue. Someone, somewhere, was watching me, and even when I was hidden, they emerged from nowhere to blast me into oblivion. Even after I sent grenades into every nook and cranny I could think of, this mysterious foe remained at large. I eventually figured out that I could sneak behind a building to get him to reveal himself, allowing me to turn off his body with a bullet and pick up Red Glare, a rocket launcher. After acquiring the laser designator and detonating a nuclear warhead, an assortment of marked men arrived and were looking for a fight. Red Glare doesn't do as much damage as a missile launcher or a Fat Man, but you can fire rockets absurdly quickly, which is great for dealing with groups of enemies. I almost got stuck when I quick-saved as a marked man was about to swing his sword and I was reloading. Took a few tries to get away from him and explode him with my nail gun. With the area clear, I pressed onwards, taking on a few marked men here and there, most of which could be taken out with a sneak headshot with the trail carbine, found a holotape Ulysses left behind, blew up another nuke, and a bunch more marked men emerged from behind it. The ever-present problem with marked men is how accurate they are, even with a rocket launcher. I landed a few lucky grenade rifle shots and did big damage to the group, and spent longer than I should have dealing with one man who remained. I killed him, looted all the bodies, and went feet first into hell by entering the collapsed overpass tunnel, also known as the headquarters of the tunnelers, who are some of the most feared creatures in the Divide. Inside, I got more Eddie backstory and began to carefully and quietly make my way through the tunnels. A few feet inside, I found a dead NCR trooper and picked up a few flashlight bombs from his pockets. Then I saw it, the first tunneler. He went down in one shot, but I had a feeling a few more weren't far behind him. So I took shelter in an overturned vehicle, and soon enough, there were more. Eddie tried his hardest to fend them off, but he wasn't enough for him. From behind the safety of a piece of concrete, I threw a grenade and blew myself up. There were 3 tunnelers, but the small upside was that between the concrete and Eddie's body, they had a hard time getting to me. I tried a few different weapons on them, including a flare gun that blew off my entire right side. I eventually settled on a frag grenade and an assault carbine, defeated the tunnelers, and ventured deeper into the destruction. Eddie woke up, I switched to hollow points, heard more tunnelers, Eddie got frightened, and more tunnelers revealed themselves. Hollow points are good, but they're useless when fighting half a dozen tunnelers. Then, a new idea. I pulled out the flashbangs, flashed them all, and ran for my life until I was back outside. Ulysses seemed surprised that I'd gotten through the tunnels. Then he told me that what's up ahead is worse. Deathclaws. He also told me that the tunnelers would eventually invade the Mojave, and everyone would be powerless to stop them. He really is a ray of sunshine. There were a few marked men at the entrance to the high road, and a beast of some sort, but they weren't too troublesome to deal with. Back in the light, I found a shoulder-mounted machine gun, detonated another warhead, killed a marked man with a sniper rifle, took to the skies, sort of, and found a bunch of supplies at the crow's nest. I tried to send this NCR riot controller guy down to the dust below as a treat for the tunnelers, but his corpse had more fight in it than I thought it would. It took some finagling, but I got him down, stepped on a mine, went back down to the road, and saw a Deathclaw. The first shot I landed did a good amount of damage, the rest did less. I thought for sure the shoulder-mounted machine gun would tear it apart. It really didn't go as well as I hoped it would, but the big dumb idiot activated my trap card. His head turned into jelly. I dropped its egg down into the nightmare below, then jumped down after it. Farther down the road, I took out another warhead and found another Deathclaw. I'd found a few satchel charges that do 226 damage per charge. In another blinding display of ignorance, I thought they'd send the Deathclaw into orbit. They barely tickled him. I knew what the problem was, though. The mines were spread out. I needed to aim for a specific body part, so I stacked the charges one on top of another, crippled the beast, killed it, taunted it. I took out a third Deathclaw from a distance with a sniper rifle. Eddie interrupted my lonesome wandering again. I blew up another warhead and arrived in ASHTON. The high road is behind me, but what lies ahead is a shitstorm of my own making. The marked men at the end of the high road aren't too bad. Bonesaw could have been, but he can't climb on cars as good as I can. I then found the ASHTON Silo Control Station. I pressed the pretty button and launched a fully grown nuclear warhead into the air and filled the sky with pretty dark dust. This is where you stand on a platform for a while and fend off tunnelers. This, more so than anything else, is what I was dreading. An incredibly confined space with tough enemies that effectively swarm me at all times. Yeah, it wasn't that bad. I'd found a stealth boy earlier and used it just before the tunnelers began arriving. The lift is dangerous, explosions are happening, people named Paul are screaming, it's a mess. I took advantage of my sneak and gun skills by taking out a few of the tunnelers with a silenced .22 pistol. Then things exploded, a few more died, I took out the last tunneler with a sword, and entered the ASHTON missile silo. There are more tunnelers inside, but I stayed low to the ground and used sneak attacks to my advantage, so they weren't as bad as they could have been. There were more up ahead in the Sunstone Tower. More sneak attacks were used to make quick work of them. Then I finally arrived in the Divide. Apparently I made the Divide some time ago. I don't think I could have done that. My Discord name isn't Perfect Paul just because someone asked me to change my name to that. It's because I don't make fictional mistakes. A bunch of marked men were waiting below me, most of which I took out with red glare after I fell off a building and died twice. I blew up a warhead and suffered a lethal aneurysm from the aftershock, or so I thought. Turns out there was a marked man behind me. Eddie handled him for me. A bit deeper into the Divide, I picked up a missile launcher off a dead body and began making my way through the Cave of Abaddon. It was here I really began putting red glare to work, taking out anywhere from 1 to 2 tunnelers with multiple rockets. I got momentarily overwhelmed and spent more lives than I should have trying to take them out with a missile launcher, instead of just flashing them all and ignoring them. When that failed, I tried the shoulder-mounted machine gun, and when that also failed, I went back to the tried-and-true grenade rifle and finally finished them off with red glare. I emerged from the cave in the buried buildings, passed through them, and was in the Divide proper. Ulysses stole my traveling companion and told me that he'd basically condemn Eddie to an eternity of torture, which was far darker than anything else he'd said so far. Then Eddie zapped me and fled the scene before the police could arrive. I leveled up, got speech to 100, picked Here and Now as my perk, leveled up again, and put the points into guns and energy weapons for some reason. There were 2 more Deathclaws here that were a real pain to get past. I used a nail gun on one of them, which was less effective than I could have possibly imagined. Satchel charged the shit out of one of them and spent like 1,000 years trying to snipe the last one. I eventually got it and arrived in hell. There are marked men here that fire fast, firing guns that fire fast. A missile launcher handled them easily enough though. The real problem came in Waterfall Canyon, when some rapscallion pinpointed my position and kept killing me. I sought refuge near the waste disposal station. In a horrific turn of events, there are marked men here that use stealth boys, and I quick-saved when they were about 7 centimeters behind me. And to make matters worse, one of them was named Blade, which means he's a tough motherfucker. No weapon I had even came close to killing him in one shot. At one point, I'd managed to get past him, but another marked man stopped me in my tracks. It was beginning to look like this was the end of the line, until I escaped into what remained of the waste disposal station. It took multiple attempts for me to get inside and position myself somewhere where Blade couldn't attack me. I had some time to compose myself, but the problem was not solved. The only viable way to kill Blade was a missile launcher, but I either got before I could fire it or the explosion from the rocket killed me. I stood there for a while, thinking about what to do. Then I got shot from behind. That's right, someone is still in the cave with me, and they're invisible. I eventually figured out that it was Blade, and that he was behind the stone pillar. Then came another quick-save disaster. I saved about a second before Blade started firing on me, and I was crouched, and running outside was immediate death because the marked men were still there. It was a nightmare of a situation to find myself in. I got incredibly lucky and lodged myself in a corner where, in this 1 in a million scenario, he couldn't hit me. I pulled out red glare, fired at the nothing, and Blade was finally defeated. I was alone in the cave and could think about how to get out of this clusterfuck. My first trick was to go out there for a second and get their attention, then retreat inside and hope they came after me so I could fire rockets at them. Didn't work. Then I tried waiting a day, thinking they'd fuck off to some other place. They didn't, but in a dumb stroke of luck, I managed to walk out there, retreat to the left, fire a missile, kill them both, and not die. It's finally over. I can continue onward. There were a few marked men littered throughout this area. The hardest part was actually finding them, because there were multiple levels in this building. It also took me a minute to figure out where I was supposed to go. Once I got back on track, I assassinated a mark with a rocket launcher, decided to ignore the last one because I couldn't figure out where he was, disarmed a few explosives, got a 3-for-1 special on marked men corpses, and arrived at Ulysses' temple. I proved how much I've been changed by the Divide by sneak attacking a sentry bot just like I did when I first arrived. I stood outside the elevator to the temple for a while, thinking about what I'd find inside. I spent a long time trying to use my maxed out speech skill to take the diplomatic approach to dealing with Ulysses. I even looked up a guide for what specific choices I was supposed to make, but there was one fatal flaw. You're supposed to be level 25 when you begin the DLC, and by that point, you've usually had a few run-ins with the NCR or Legion, and have dealt with one of them enough to have affected your reputation, which gives you unique dialogue options. Whether you side with the NCR or Legion, you can convince Ulysses to side with you, but when you're a lonesome wanderer, that is not an option. I have to fight Ulysses, which was not what I wanted to do. Had I known I'd have to go down this road, I wouldn't have bothered with the speech skill. But there's a workaround, because if nothing else, I'm a pussy. I'm not gonna fight him like a man. I'd laid down 8 satchel charges and some C4, backed up to a safe distance, searched a few containers for anything useful, found 2 more satchel charges, backed up for the last time, pulled out my sniper rifle, took some psycho, and I managed to disappoint myself by killing the original Courier 6 with 2 shots. Then some marked men arrived and killed me with my own makeshift nuclear warhead. The second time, Ulysses took more shots. The marked men slowly made their way inside. I killed an eyebot that could have been Eddie for all I know, picked up an anti-material rifle from Ulysses' body, and spent a few minutes dealing with the marked men who began making their way inside. Between the psycho and the high-powered rifle, most went down in a single shot. I encountered a brief trouble spot thanks to someone who liked to throw explosives, retreated to a lower level, used a stealth boy to hide, took out the last marked man, completed the courier quest, leveled up to level 30, decided to send the nukes to both the Legion and NCR because fuck them both, and as the explosions erupted around me, I fled from Ulysses' temple and beat Fallout New Vegas' Lonesome Road DLC without taking any damage. And that's going to do it for this video about whether or not you can beat Fallout New Vegas' Lonesome Road DLC without taking any damage. If you enjoyed the video or learned anything, leave a like. Leave a dislike if you didn't enjoy the video or didn't learn anything. Follow me on Twitter at Mitten Squad. My name is Paul of Mitten Squad. Have a wonderful day.